Today, I wanted to do a video about something that's been on a lot of our minds, and that's the cost of living crisis and how it compares to our living memory. Very few of us, in fact, I don't think any of us, will have been around for the Great Depression. We will have learnt about people's experiences through family or media, and we are unlikely to have lived through a world war, with rations, lack of supplies, and loved ones going off to war. However, many of us were around for the 1970s, and many of the things that are occurring now are very similar. But there are also some big differences. Back in the 70s in the UK, basic foods such as bread, milk, and potatoes were subsidised so they were affordable. This was a major part of the UK's post-war agricultural policy aiming to increase food production and stabilise prices. They were also a key component to the UK's approach to managing the economy during a period of high inflation and economic uncertainty. What was similar to today is the inflation. In the 70s, the inflation was so wild that prices could literally double in a few months. So families were cooking from scratch most of the time. Stews, casseroles, if they were lucky, meat and a two-veg dinner. This was very much the norm. Takeaways were a real rare treat, and in the UK it was fish and chips or nothing. Today, buying food and having food feels just as difficult, but in a different way. It's not that the shelves are empty, it's that people can't afford what's on them. Food banks are part of everyday life for many people in the UK now, something we didn't have back in the 70s. And of course, everywhere around the world you will have noticed shrinkflation. Crisps and chip bags half empty, chocolate bars smaller, amounts of liquid in bottles going down, but you're still paying more for less. Heating and energy is also comparable to now. In the 70s, we had 3-day weeks and blackouts were normal. Families would sit by candlelight, and honestly, kids thought this was an adventure at first. Most homes didn't have central heating. You had one coal fire or gas heater, and everybody would be in that one room with jumpers on. Baths were once or twice a week, and sometimes same family members would be bathing in the same water because large amounts of hot water were expensive. Many British homes had an immersion heater, which would use a lot of energy to heat one tank of water and was time consuming. Fast forward to today, and we've got central heating and double glazing, but bills are so high that many people simply can't afford to switch them on. People are rationing their heating, relying on hot water bottles and electric blankets when it comes to winter. There has been a saying in the UK for the last couple of years about people having to choose between heating or eating due to the extraordinary costs of gas and electric. In the world, there are several countries that stand out for having high costs associated with gas, electricity, and water. In Europe, Denmark, Germany, and the United Kingdom are consistently ranked for expensive electricity, with the UK coming out on top. However, the utility companies keep having year on year of record-breaking profits. It stinks, just like it did in the 1970s, when the few did very well and the masses struggled. When it comes to transport, petrol in the 1970s was a nightmare. There were queues at petrol stations, and you'd never know if you was even going to get any. On balance, not a lot of families owned cars, and people would get around on buses, trains, bikes, or you would just walk. Today, car ownership is almost essential, especially if you live outside of the big cities. Petrol is still expensive. Public transport can be quite unreliable, and trains are extortionately costly. So whether you drive or not, if you want to get around, it's a big strain on the budget. Housing is one of the biggest differences as we compare the two between the 1970s and the 2020s. In the 70s, council housing was widespread. It was good quality and it was affordable. Buying your own home was tough, with interest rates being sky high, but house prices were much lower compared to wages. So with saving, most couples could manage to buy a house. Today, it's another story entirely. Council housing is almost impossible to get. Private rents are eating up over half of people's wages, and buying a home, for young people, it can feel completely out of reach. House prices are 8 to 10 times average salaries in many places, and those that already have mortgages are being squeezed by interest rate rises. When it comes to work and wages, in the 1970s, trade unions were strong. Wages often went up alongside inflation because workers demanded it, and they got it. Jobs were mostly full-time and stable. Compare that to now. Wages haven't really moved in line with inflation for over 2 decades. Contracts are insecure and 0-hour jobs are common. This is where you are not promised any hours per week. You just get what you get. To keep the household going, most often both partners will have to go to work. For many, even working full time doesn't mean they're getting ahead. Everyday life seemed much simpler in the 1970s. We had one TV in the living room, kids playing outside until it's dark, and clothes were mended or handed down. Holidays were usually at the British seaside, and there was a real sense of community. If you ran out of sugar, you'd pop next door and borrowed a cup. Nowadays, life seems to be full of hidden costs: internet, mobile phones, streaming subscriptions, things we feel are essential. Clothes are cheap thanks to fast fashion, but they don't usually last. They're made of poor quality material and are often made in sweatshops where workers can be young, even children, are not paid fairly, and aren't always working in great conditions. And when it comes to first world problems, foreign holidays have become the norm. In the last 5 years, people have been travelling a lot less. First, because of the pandemic, and then secondly, just because of the cost. People can no longer afford expensive foreign holidays. Community spirit isn't as strong as it was back then, but food banks, warm hubs, and online groups are stepping in to fill the gap. It may not feel like it, but for every nasty, mean troll that's on the internet, there are 5 good people to step in and take the place and be a good source of support. The 1970s were rough. Inflation was far worse than today. Strikes and shortages made life difficult. But council housing, stronger unions, and a simpler lifestyle were big positives back in the day. Today's crisis is different. Inflation isn't as high, but with housing so expensive, wages stagnant, and the welfare state a lot weaker, many people are feeling the squeeze more than ever. The big difference is that the hardship in the 1970s felt more temporary, where today it feels like it's here to stay, with many people voicing the opinion it's by design. However, humans, we are tough cookies, and we are also incredibly creative, and we can make the best out of any situation. And here's some basic tips that may help you improve your cost of living situation. When it comes to food and groceries, meal plan ahead and cook simply. Just like the 70s, bulk cooking cheap staples, soups, stews, curries, pasta sauces. This will help stretch food further. Use discounts, and in the UK you can use supermarket timing, finding out when your supermarket puts out yellow sticker bargains and shop them. Grow a little. Even windowsill herbs, salad leaves, or a tomato plant can save money and could be your first step to green fingers and growing a lot more of your own produce. And swap and share with neighbours or friends. You can split bulk buys, such as big bags of rice, flour, or pasta, or learn preserving skills, because pasta, rice, and flour can last a long time if stored correctly. When it comes to energy and heating, heat the person, not the house. Layers of clothes, hot water bottles, and heat one main room if possible, exactly what families did in the 1970s. This is called zone heating. Heat the room you're in, close the doors, use draft excluders and heavy curtains. Having energy awareness will help your bills. Switch appliances off at the plug, batch cook in a slow cooker, and use air fryers as they're cheaper to run. If you really are struggling or you are lonely, find community warm hubs. Many libraries, churches, and community centres will offer warm spaces. It's the modern day version of the 1970s community spirit. When it comes to transport, walk or cycle short trips if possible. This will save fuel. Of course, it was entirely normal in the 1970s. And travel plan smartly. Group errands into one trip rather than lots of little ones. You could lift share with neighbours, co-workers or school runs. Splitting the costs will help everybody. And check rail and bus passes. Seniors or students and frequent travellers can often get discounts. When it comes to the very expensive train, booking your journey weeks ahead, if possible, can see savings. Housing and bills. Check benefit entitlements. Many people will miss out on pension credit, housing support, or council tax reductions if they're not in the know. Negotiate your bills. Call providers, internet, insurance, and phone and ask for retention deals. It may work. And use the DIY fixes. Mend clothes, repair appliances, patch up furniture. It's very 1970s. It still works. And of course, it will save money. And for some people, house sharing may be the only solution to make housing more affordable. If you need more money coming in, maybe look to side hustles, selling unwanted items online, offering services such as gardening, babysitting, pet care. And there is skill swapping. Trade something that you're good at for something else that somebody else is good at, such as a haircut, sewing, or DIY. A lot of people are using cash envelopes now, which is old school budgeting, using only cash and dividing cash into envelopes so you can see where it goes, such as food, fuel, bills, clothing, and once that money is spent, it's gone. And when it comes to your debts, if you do have any, pay down the highest interest debt first, even if it's just a little at a time. That will save you money in the long run. Everyday life can be expensive. See if you can find entertainment on the cheap. From library books, free museum days, local walking groups, and rediscover community, sharing meals with friends, borrowing instead of buying, maybe even trading children's clothes and toys. We need to have a bit of a mindset shift today. People in the 1970s just made do. Today, cutting back feels like we're failing, but it's not, it's really just adapting. From the boomers to the Gen Zs, everybody will face difficult times. Life is a combination of opportunity and adversity, and it's not about will we have hardships, for they are a certainty. It's about how we handle them. Thanks for listening today. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to watch more of our videos, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back again soon. Wherever you are in this world, we hope you have a really blessed day. Bye for now.